everyone, it's Amanda from Loops and Love Crochet here, and today I'm doing a video tutorial on the star-shaped blanket that is attached to our Crochet Lovey patterns. There are currently 4 different Crochet Lovey patterns on the blog, loopsandlovecrochet.com. You'll find a kitty lovey, a hippo lovey, an elephant lovey, and also a puppy lovey. Unfortunately, I don't have the puppy one anymore to show you because I ended up gifting him to a friend that just had a baby. However, you can find all of these free patterns on the blog, loopsandlovecrochet.com, and I hope to be adding more animals to the collection in the future. So each of these loveys here features amigurumi parts here. We got arms, the face, the ears, and then these are attached to a star-shaped blanket. Just like this. And I want to show you how to work up the star-shaped blanket because I do get a few questions from time to time on where to place the stitches. So I thought doing a video tutorial would be helpful for this part of the crochet pattern. So this lovey blanket here is a star-shaped blanket with 6 points to it. And to make sure that your points and kind of dips between the points turn out right, that's gonna change kind of where you place your double crochet stitches, where you place the cluster V stitches, and as well as where you skip a stitch to make the part that goes down in between the points too. So I'll show you that in the video tutorial. We're going to be using a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook for this tutorial here, as well as just some worsted weight yarn. Okay, so here I'm going to start with my magic circle. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to work 12 double crochet stitches into my magic circle. So into the ring, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there we are. So now I'm going to pull that ring nice and tight. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of our first double crochet stitch. So there we go. Make sure your ring is pulled tight, and then we're going to work over this yarn tail here. So for the next round, the instructions are chain 2, and then you're going to cluster V stitch in the first stitch, skip the next stitch, and then cluster V stitch in the following stitch, and repeat that around. So we're going to start with our chain 2, and then we'll work our cluster V stitch into the first stitch, and I'm going to work over that tail. So double crochet, and then another double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochet stitches worked into the same stitch. 1 and 2. So here is my cluster V stitch. As described in the pattern, it's a modified cluster V stitch where we're doing 2 full double crochet stitches, and then a chain 1, and then 2 more full double crochet stitches all into the same stitch. So here we're going to skip the next stitch, and we're going to do the same thing in the following stitch. So it'll be 2 double crochet stitches. So 1, 2, and then chain 1, and then 2 double crochet stitches again. 1, 2. So there we go, and then I'll skip the next stitch, work my cluster V stitch again, and then skip the following one, the next cluster V stitch. So I'm just going to repeat that the full way around. So that's all you do for round 2. So I'll finish off round 2 and then I will show you round 3. Okay, so here is the end of our round 2. We're going to end with that stitch that we skip after each of the cluster V stitches. That's what we did all the way around. Cluster V stitch, skip a stitch, cluster V, skip. So we're ending with the cluster V stitch and then skip a stitch. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of our first double crochet stitch of the round. So that's the first double crochet of the first cluster V stitch. So we're going to join with a slip stitch there. Now the instructions for round 3, it starts with slip stitch to the next stitch, chain 2, double crochet in the first stitch. Okay, so we're going to start with the slip stitch to the next stitch. So we slip stitch to join. Now we're going to slip stitch over to the next double crochet stitch. And basically this is just getting us closer to the space made with our chain 1 of our cluster V stitch. So now we're just right beside in this double crochet stitch. And then from here we're going to chain 2. And this is where we're going to start our round with a double crochet in the same stitch as the chain and join, and slip stitch, sorry. So here's our double crochet. So again, it's in the same stitch that we had that chain 2 attached to. And then now we're at our first cluster V stitch space. So here's our V, and here's the space made by that chain 1. And in that we're going to work a cluster V stitch again. So we got to go double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochet stitches, all into that chain 1 space of that cluster V stitch. And then so from here you can see that our cluster V stitch from the previous round, that's where our cluster V stitch from this round is placed. So that's going to be the same thing as you work up your whole blanket, is all of the cluster V stitches will go inside of the cluster V stitch of the previous round. So you can place them in the right spot there. And then from here it says double crochet. So we're going to double crochet in the following stitch here. So these 2 stitches right here that create our V, that's where our cluster V stitch went. We're not going to jam a double crochet stitch into the top of the one where the V is. We're going to go right to the next one. So this is the last double crochet part of your cluster V stitch from the previous round. We're going to work a double crochet into the top of that. And there we go. So now it says skip a stitch. So we're going to skip the next stitch, which is right here. And then we're going to double crochet in the next stitch. So we're skipping that stitch. We're going to double crochet in the next stitch. And then again, we're going to cluster V into the cluster V stitch of the previous round. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and double crochet. And then we end with another double crochet right after our cluster V stitch into that following stitch. And then we skip a stitch. So you're kind of just repeating double crochet, cluster V stitch, double crochet, skip a stitch, double crochet, cluster V stitch, double crochet, skip a stitch. And that's what you're going to do the full way around. So I'll finish that off for this round 3, and then I'll show you how round 4 goes. So I'll start with my last double crochet. The color changes worked in the last yarn over of the last stitch of the round. So I'm going to work my double crochet halfway up here. So I'll yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then instead of yarning over with my gray yarn for the last part, I'm going to yarn over with my blue yarn. So I'm just going to place that over my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull that through. And there's my color change. And then I'll join with a slip stitch to the top of my first double crochet of the round here. I'm gonna pull that nice and tight. I'm gonna pull my gray end nice and tight here too. So from here you would probably want to work over the yarn tail of the gray and the blue until it's secure, and then you can cut it. Now we're gonna start off round 4 as well. And again, that starts with a slip stitch, just as the previous round did. We're gonna slip stitch over to the next stitch. If you don't want to work over the yarn tails now, you can also cut them a little bit longer and then weave them in later. It's up to you. And then here we're going to chain 2, and we're going to do the same thing, but now we're increasing around. So instead of putting 1 stitch in front of your cluster V stitches, it's going to be 2 stitches. So it's going to be double crochet for the first 2 stitches and then your cluster V stitch, and then it'll be 2 more double crochet stitches following your cluster V stitch. So let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to work that double crochet into that first stitch here, and then we'll work another double crochet into the next stitch. And now we're over at our cluster V stitch space here created by that chain 1. So we're going to work our cluster V stitch in there and chain 1, and then 2 more double crochet stitches. All right, there we are. And then following that, we have 2 double crochet stitches, and then we have that skipped stitch space. So your skipped stitches are going to always be lining up with this skipped stitch space. So we got 2 double crochet stitches to work. 1, 2. And then here's our skip stitch space. So we're going to skip this stitch, and then we're going to go continue on with the repeat. Double crochet, cluster V stitch, double crochet, skip a stitch. So we're going to skip that and double crochet, cluster V stitch, and then double crochet in the following stitch, double crochet again. And then if you placed your stitches right, you should line up in the skip stitch space here, which is right here. So we're going to skip that stitch, and then it'll be 2 double crochet stitches again. So we're just going to repeat that the full way around. 2 double crochet stitches, cluster V stitches, or 1 cluster V stitch, sorry. And then 2 double crochet stitches, following the cluster V, and then skip a stitch. So that's the repeat for this round. So so I'll finish off the rest of this round here, and then I'll tell you about where the next round is going to go for this lovey blanket. Okay, so here we are back around here at the end of round 4, and I've just finished that last 2 double crochet stitches, and then again right here where we slip stitched across to the next stitch to start the round, that's going to be our skipped stitch there. So we'll stop here, and then we will join with a slip stitch to the top of the first stitch of the round, and then from here you're going to be ready for round 5. So here's how the lovey blanket works up here. So you can kind of see the points starting to form here. Now you may have noticed that each round is going to be increasing. So here we have our pattern was, in the previous round, it was 1 double crochet, cluster V stitch, 1 double crochet, skip a stitch. And then in the next one here for round 4 that we just finished, the pattern was 2 double crochet, cluster V stitch, 2 double crochet, skip a stitch. And then for the next round, it's going to be 3 double crochet stitches, cluster V stitch, 3 double crochet stitches, and then the skip stitch. And then after that, it'll be 4 double crochet stitches, cluster V stitch, 4 double crochet stitches. So as your blanket gets bigger, You're just increasing another double crochet stitch before and after each of the cluster V stitches before your skipped stitch. And again, all of your cluster V stitches will line up in the same place, as well as all of your skip stitches. So once you work up a lot of rounds of your star blanket, you'll see the points really start to form here. So here again, you can see all of the cluster V stitches. You can see the double crochet stitches before and after each of the cluster V stitches. And you can see we get more double crochet stitches. It increases by one with each round here. And you can see the skip stitches as well too, where all the skipped stitches are in the same place. And here too, we can see this is where our joins were, and here's our skipped stitch based on that, where that's extra slip stitch was at the start of each of the rounds. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. I hope you found it helpful for working up the star blanket for the Crochet Lovey patterns that you can find on the blog. I'd love it if you subscribe to this YouTube channel and also follow Loops and Love Crochet on Facebook and on Instagram. And I've also added the links to the free crochet patterns on the blog. I've added the direct links to the Loveys in the details for this video here. So please check out the details there, and if you're looking for more video tutorials, you can find more on our YouTube channel, and all of our free crochet patterns are on our blog, loopsandlovecrochet.com. Thanks for watching!